I knew that if I kept going, it would eventually succeed. And of course, I had failures along the way. Everyone does. But instead of stopping at those failures, just keep moving forward.
Hey guys, this is Benjamin Weiss. Welcome back to Humans of Flippa, where we get to go inside some of the minds of the people out there who use Flippa on regular and have been changing their lives with our platform. I'm really excited today. We're meeting with Joe Burrell, who's pretty much created an entire career around Flippa. At this point, has been using it for about 8 years. I was just looking at his stats. He's at 71 transactions now, and it looks like he just this past month passed the $1 million mark in total transactions. But he's doing that not just for himself, but he's doing it as a broker. So he's actually out there kind of helping other people change their lives a bit, one listing at a time. So Joel, thanks for being here. Really excited to meet you. If you just want to say hi, introduce yourself, tell me, where you're from, a little bit of your background, how you kind of got started with Flippa back in the day. That'd be great.
Sure. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate being on the show. So I started buying and selling businesses on Flippa back in 2012. Started with my mentors, Mountainliz. It was pretty green back then. Sites were still selling for 10 times the monthly profit in the good old days. And obviously it's gone up quite a lot since then. Quality of businesses have gone up and everything. I started obviously buying and selling for myself. I had my own businesses, and I would buy, renovate, and then sell. After a while, I realized I sort of was gravitating more towards the selling of businesses. I was good at it. I was finding that I was getting good multiples for the businesses that I sold, and I enjoyed doing it, especially on Flippa. Like it was, using their auction system, which we'll get into probably a bit later on. So I was actually offered a position or offered to become a broker with Flippa. It would have been about maybe three or 4 years ago. And I actually turned it down. I actually turned it down because I was happy with how things were running with my own business. And I'm like, I don't need to change it. It's working. And over the time, there were more and more people who were sort of seeing my activity on Flippa, and they're like, 100% positive feedback. He's done a lot of deals and stuff like this. And they were asking me to sell their businesses directly. And so I'm like, maybe there's something here. I'll give it a go. And so I gave it a go, and I'm like, yeah, I enjoy it. And before I knew it, the business was growing, and it's still growing like quite exponentially. And so that was probably about 2 years ago that I actually started brokering businesses on Flippa. And now I'm listing probably between 4 to 6 businesses on Flippa a month, and like I said, it's growing. So it's pretty cool actually to reach that 1 mil mark, and like that's a big number.
That is. We don't. I mean, unless obviously there's some people on Flippa who are selling extremely valuable sites, so maybe they hit that $1 million mark, with just 1 or 2 sales. But someone like yourself is doing it, with. What do you know what the typical value is actually of what you're selling on Flippa? I'm curious.
Well, it depends. Are you talking about like how much, like the value?
What they end up selling for? Yeah, are they $15,000, $100,000, $1,000?
Yeah, I've sold a couple for 6 figures, low 6 figures, but most of them between 10 and say 30, 50, yeah. 30, 50K. So it varies a lot. I generally only list businesses for other people if it's making 300 profit or more per month.
Oh, okay.
On average, as an average, just because obviously it takes a lot of time to prepare these businesses for sale and making sure that all of the data is in order, the profit and loss is set up and verified. It takes a lot of work. So if it's any less than that, it sort of starts becoming a bit of a not really worth it, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So are you doing this full time now? Is this kind of
Yeah.
your gig, or you got a side job on this, or what is it?
Well, yeah, so I still have a few businesses that I own and operate, but they're very passive businesses that I pretty much just look at maybe once or twice a month. So yeah, pretty much doing this full time, or semi full time. Like I choose my hours, and yeah, so it's all I do. It makes the most amount for me. So
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I love that you can just have that kind of lifestyle, and it just sort of happened that way. It sounds like people just started reaching out. And how are you getting most of your clients now? Is it still kind of organic in that way, or are you actually reaching
yeah,
out to people? What's going on?
no, super organic. Man. I've never gone out searching for leads specifically. At one point, I thought I was going to use LinkedIn for that, but not only is it difficult to pin down people who actually own websites, unless you reach out to them directly, but it just sort of, I don't know. I prefer just word of mouth, like everything like that. It seems to be the better way to do it. I'm obviously I try to be very genuine and transparent with my businesses and the businesses I list. If there's something wrong, I try do my best to try and point that out, which generates a sort of an element of trust, which is hard to find when you don't generally see people face to face like this. It's just people talking text. So
Yeah,
having
absolutely.
that trust element is a super important part, and because of that trust, it then moves on to the word of mouth.
Yeah.
People just spread the word.
No, absolutely. I was curious, as I said, I think at the beginning, what was it? Something like 71 transactions now. I'm sure some of those might be your own listings, but a lot of those are ones
Yeah.
you've brokered. I was just curious, do you have any like kind of favorite ones that you've sold? I know one of mine, just because of what it was that Curd Nerd site. I don't know if you have any other kind of
That
amusing
one got
ones that are, good people or good sites or anything, like any kind of stories to share on that end.
Yeah, so CodeNode's definitely one that jumps to mind. Not only is it a cool site, a cool niche, it was a great business. A lot of people don't know this, but I actually put an offer on the business before I went to broker it. But it was way less than what it ended up selling for on Flippa. So it's good for him that he didn't take my offer.
They made the right decision.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, yeah, so that's one, but that had lots and lots of revenue streams, and lots of diverse. It was extremely diversified for such a small business. That one I think sold for 6.7 times the yearly profit. So that was a huge one.
Wow.
That was a bit. Like I said, we can maybe talk about the auction process a bit later.
Yeah.
But I've got a very specific strategy that I use for the small businesses that works very well, and I use that strategy for that one. But there's a few others. I find that content businesses, AdSense and Amazon affiliate businesses tend to sell for really decent multiples on Flippa.
Mm.
Just easy to run businesses that don't require a lot of time. Those ones generally seem to do quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and since you clearly want to talk about it, let's jump into what is your strategy. I think I know what it is, but I'll let you explain what you do.
Yeah, all right. So basically, it's starting. As you know, Flippa has an auction system, and you basically can set a reserve. So the way the auction works is you set a reserve. Once the bidding passes that reserve, it turns green, and the site will sell to whoever the highest bidder is. The strategy that I like to use with Flippa is I set the reserve at $1, which basically means that as soon as one person places a bid, it passes the reserve and it will sell. So it will sell to whoever the highest bidder is. And what this tends to do is not only does it create a lot of hype and a lot of bids, it creates a lot of activity around the listing, increases its popularity and its rankings as well on Flippa. So obviously, the more activity you have on your listings, the higher up the ranking you generally will be. And I've got a couple other little things that I like to do with those listings, like towards the end, just to sort of incentivize people to keep bidding. But generally, it works very well. That's like for CodeNode, for example, I probably would have if I was to add a bin, like an asking price, it would have been a lot less than what it sold for.
Mm.
You understand? So
Yeah.
I would never have expected it to get up as high as it did. And so by having that no reserve auction, you basically take the ceiling off. And so it can just keep going up. The obvious downside is that it doesn't always work in your favor. In other words, the bidding can sometimes stall, and like it'll get up to say 10 times the monthly profit, or 1x. Obviously, it's very dependent on the business. The better your business is, the better it's going to do. And also, I wouldn't recommend doing this for bigger businesses. Anything over 20K, I generally don't do it for, just simply because there are less buyers up around that price range.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's basically the strategy in a nutshell. Yeah,
Yeah.
did you have any questions about that? Or if you,
No, it's great. I mean, I see it. Obviously, we're behind the scenes all the time, and I notice it
Yeah.
on all your listings that are, as you said, like probably under 20,000 in value, and it does work incredibly well. Did you ever have to like convince the people who are trusting you that it's okay to start an auction at $1 and that they're not going to end up selling it for $10?
Every time. Every time. Yeah. And it depends, like I said, it depends on the business. And I try to be as transparent as possible. Like when I suggest it, like I said, it's only for small businesses. And also, I let them know the risks. It's like, say if it's a site making 500 a month, I say, like it could like, and like, let's say they want 15K for it, and it's 500 a month. I'm like, it could sell for 10K. It could sell for 5K. If that happens, then we still have to sell for that price. That's the risk. Obviously, doing that, you're locking into whatever that highest bid is. That's what you have to sell it for. So,
Yeah, you got to play the game. There's a little risk to it, but it seems to be working for you. So hopefully
it does.
Hopefully you figure out how to gamify Flippa a little bit, and hopefully it keeps working.
A little, yeah. There was a bit of that.
No, it's great. I mean, it works, and people, you're making money, they're making money. Everyone's doing fantastic. I want to shift a little bit away from Flippa quickly. I'm just kind of curious, because everyone comes to Flippa. I mean, no one starts their life as a digital entrepreneur, obviously. What were you doing before Flippa, or like before maybe your first sales, and obviously before brokering, and what might you be doing right now if you hadn't kind of discovered this niche of the world?
Well, so before I did this, and for the first few years before I went full time with it in 2015, I was a customer service officer for Queensland Transport, which is basically where you get your license and your car registration renewed and all that stuff. So I was face-to-face customer service. Actually, it wasn't too bad. I mean, it was all right. It was fairly easy work. The occasional crazy person. But it was work that I enjoyed, but I knew that I didn't want to do it forever. It was sort of like one of those jobs that didn't really have that much career growth. Around that time, my older brother, he gifted the whole family a board game called Cashflow, right, which is Robert Kiyosaki's board game, which basically teaches you to invest. Or at least the very basic concepts of that. And that's actually the game that got me into investing in general. So I had like a nest egg of money. I've always been fairly good at saving money. And so after I got this job, it was fairly well paying, and I had saved up a bit of money, and I'm like, what should I do with all this money? And it wasn't that much, actually. It wasn't. It was just, it felt like a lot.
Hard problem.
I was like 20 years old or something. Yeah. So, yeah. And so I wanted to put the money to good use. And the money actually went into education to begin with, but then it steamrolled into, investing in other businesses and things like that. Yeah, that's how I met Mountainliz.
That's great. Yeah. Well, do you want to, without going into too much detail, who are Matt and Liz, since you brought them up? Because they are
so
people and big Flippa users as well.
Yeah, they're my mentors. They live in Australia, and they have multiple courses, which you can check up ebusinessinstitute.com.au. They have, it's basically where I got started. It was their high-end mentoring course. They taught us how to basically buy and sell website businesses for profit. And
Amazing. I'll be talking to them. I haven't yet, but by the time
yeah,
this is online, when you're watching it, audience members, there might be a link to hear from Matt and Liz as well. They're great folks, so look
excellent.
out for
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, definitely worth a shout out because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them for sure. And yeah, so that's where it started.
So you think you'd still be like in some sort of customer service role or something if you hadn't found kind of digital entrepreneuring?
I don't know. I don't know. I sort of feel like if I didn't find digital entrepreneuring, I would have probably invested my money elsewhere and got into some investment strategy. Whether or not it would have worked out, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have this theory that basically you can make money doing pretty much anything. You just have to stick to it. You know, like most of the people who did the course with me that year, they they didn't fully commit. And a lot of them didn't end up doing much with it. I was one of the few that actually just kept pushing, kept going. I knew that if I kept going, it would eventually succeed. And of course, I had failures along the way. Everyone does. But instead of stopping at those failures, just keep moving forward. You know, so
Yeah.
that's the key. That's the key to success with pretty much anything that you want to do.
Absolutely. I love that advice. No, it makes sense. And I mean, I think for a lot of people out there, online business, even though it's 2020 right now, like business is online, it still feels like something very distant and that they're unfamiliar with. It's not as natural maybe to kind of get into online business. It's not as obvious in how you run, a content site or an Amazon site versus, people kind of innately understand how you invest in real estate perhaps, or something like that, or you innately understand how you run a coffee shop.
It's the lack of the physical, like you can't touch it.
Right.
How is something worth something that you can't touch?
Yeah.
Like that trips a lot of people up. For me, it's like it's never really crossed my mind, to be honest. Because obviously, if they're making money, if it's making a profit every month, that's worth something.
Absolutely.
So that's basically what you're buying, So yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this has been great. I do want to ask. I like to ask this one little question, just because I know, you and most of the people I talk to either, use Flippa on the regular or have kind of changed their lives in one way or another for this kind of remote, sit behind a desk wherever you are in the world lifestyle. How would you describe your perfect day?
A perfect day. So I usually wake up pretty early, walk the dog. Most of my days generally are the same, very similar at least. I do CrossFit, so then I go and train, sort of usually in the afternoons, but it depends on what my schedule's doing. Sometimes I do that in the middle of the day. I did today, for example, because I got this call. Sell a site or two, and get a couple of new leads. That makes a pretty good day for me. Then in the afternoon, I usually just hang out with my girlfriend in the apartment. And yeah.
Well, it doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
get a PR on your clean, sell a few sites, and spend some time with family. I like it.
That's it.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much. As I said, it was really exciting for me to get to talk to you because I see your name on Flippa all the time, and I always have faith in your sites. It sounds like you really do vet them well, so that's fantastic. And thanks for joining me today. It's been great. And I hope some people learn a bit from you. Maybe you'll get some calls from them because they want to help selling their sites. You never know. If nothing else, maybe you just make some friends. We'll see.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yep.